What's the YouTube? Dare here with wargames, bringing you another live commentary on one of our duels. Now, at this moment in time, we have Tom on the left side playing Altergeist, obviously with Multifaker, and then we've got myself on the right playing True Dracos, both preparing for the national season coming out. And Tom starts us off by playing Pot of Duality and then taking one of the cards. Now, Altergeist are a very, very interesting art type. They've been around, I believe, since Code. I might be a little bit wrong on that, or Circuit. It might be Circuit Break that were the first lot. And now that we've started to get the support, they're a little bit better. So anyway, he summons Marionetta, sets the Monster Reborn trap from his deck directly, and then sets 2 more cards. And then passes over to me, I believe, after I cut. But regardless, Altergeist are a very, very interesting art type. And they do have the possibility of becoming meta. So he activates Protocol. Protocol is basically, he tributes another face up Altergeist card and negates a monster effect. I, of course, have the Amino-Wato, so I drop that on him straight away, and that protects me for the turn. And you actually see in his hand he does have Ash Blossom. I did open up 2 Amino-Watos, so I am popping one of those with Diagram because it's no longer used to me at 2, and then I get to extend my plays a little bit further by searching out the spell card Disciples, which lets me recycle 3. I'm pretty sure I had like a hand of spells in this one, I can't quite remember. But obviously the biggest issue with Altergeist is their traps are very, very powerful, and they do a lot of searching. So Amino-Wato stops the monsters searching and bouncing and whatnot, but doesn't really stop the traps. So I activate Disciples, use the additional normal summon to bring out Majesty Maiden, and then use Disciples affecting Graveyard to pop one of his back row. I'm not worried about Protocol right now, so I'll target one of the face downs just to kind of see what it is and get rid of it, just in case it could be like a warning, a judgment, or something like that. So I'm going to pop the spoof. He flips it, it's a spoofing. He shuffles back in the Siliquis, which is the Kirin. It just can't bounce itself, it's the only issue. And of course, with Amino-Wato on the board, it stops Multifaker going off in the hand, so it kind of reverts Altergeist back to what they were before Multifaker. He does choose to search Multifaker off of spoofing, and then obviously spoofing gets popped because of Disciples. I also have Card of Demise in hand, which is really, really good. So I've got Heritage. I activate Heritage for the 1+ draw. I probably could have activated Demise first rather than that, but regardless, I think I draw into another spell. I want to make sure that Demise is the last thing I use, so I can actually do some damage to him. So I'm obviously attacking over his Marionetta for 1,000. And then the Amino-Wato is going to swing in direct for 19. So I get a nice bit of damage on board early on, and see how that goes from there. Taking straight down to 51, and like I said, I'm pretty sure I've got Duality and Demise in hand, or some form of combination through there. It now also means that he will have to activate my Demise. He will have to activate another one of his traps in order for me to get my effect off of, just negate my effect. So I've got Solemn Warning, one of the spells, and I believe it was another Amino-Wato. Obviously taking the Solemn Warning, or one of in the deck that's kindly been added to my hand, so I can use and abuse that off of the Duality. And then I've got 2 traps and 1 more spell. So I set those, pass my turn, or well, end phase resolve Demise first. Resolve Demise first, then resolve Amino-Wato coming back to my hand, and then obviously after all that's happened, still in the end phase, Tom activates the Monster Reborn kind of trap card, which allows him to bring back, and then he can special summon the Multifaker because Amino-Wato is no longer on the board. So he's been able to recoup his board presence simply off of that. So it just shows you kind of what Multifaker has been able to add, because then on top of that, Multifaker then special summons the Siliquis from deck, which is an on-turn Kirin. It probably was at this point that I could have activated the Majesty Maiden, but he then would have just activated the Protocol, and then getting rid of my board presence as well, so I would have been wide open for attacks. Obviously couldn't activate my Solemn Warning because that was during the end phase. And now I believe he's got the Melee Seeks. We call him Mr. Meeseeks. So he normal summons this one. This one can attack directly for 500, and when it deals damage, it sends one card on the field to the graveyard. So I'm quite happy with that one. I could have Solemn Warning it, but I was more worried about the Hextia, because obviously Hextia can start negating spells and traps. So I kind of knew he probably wanted to send my Majesty Maiden to the graveyard with the Meeseeks effect. So a warning would have been too much of a gamble, because then he could have just brought it back anyway. And then he would have just linked up with stuff, got more searches, could have bounced stuff as well. So it really wasn't worth warning right now. If you wanted to go into a link player overextend, then the warning would be much more useful. So I'm chaining Monarch Stormforth. Now the reason I'm chaining Monarch Stormforth is to try and bait him out, because I need my search off of my Majesty Maiden, and my Majesty Maiden can then search me out my masterpiece, but obviously he has the ability to negate it on board, which is a bit of the issue as well. I probably could have kept that Stormforth, but wasn't exactly the best of ideas to activate that, just in case he panicked. I then just questioned whether I can activate Majesty Maiden during the damage state, and just to double check, and I believe we check it, and obviously you can't. So it's just something I wanted to check with the ruling of Meeseeks. Just to be 100% sure. If you're never 100% sure about something, always ask and get it clarified, because it could end up biting you back in the arse, and then when you look back at it, it's something that you regret not asking. Regardless, I've taken the 500 from Meeseeks, and then I'm taking 16 direct from Marionetta. So then we're going to continue playing on. I've still got the Amino Water in hand, which I think he forgets about. Not that he can do a lot with it, but I normal summon it and kind of shut all his monsters down so he can't bounce me next turn. Guys, I think he's thinking about whether to link up. Now, obviously, if he goes into Hextia, Hextia can then have can negate a spell or trap, but it's only activation, so not the effect, which means my diagram would still be live. And if I have a trap on play, I can pop the trap with diagram, pop his Hextia, and then go off. Even though his Hextia gets in a search, it still doesn't do a huge amount more for him. Obviously, he's left his monster in attack mode, which turns out to be his downfall. In that sense, because Meeseeks at 500 should never really be left in attack, because of obviously being so weak. Anyway, so he finally passed his turn. I draw my card. I believe I draw a diagram or a heritage. I think it's a heritage. I've got the Amino in hand, so standby main, drop the Amino. It means he can't bounce my stuff anymore with the Siliquus. Use diagrams effect. Get rid of the heritage, because I've got another one in hand, I believe. And then I think I say if I get rid of the Monster Reborn, does the Marionetta go? And I believe it does. So this was all new to me as well. Like, I'd never played against Altergeist with Multi-Faker in a proper match setup, which is why it was both good testing for me and him, just to kind of see where the meta could go, because there is the speculation that we might not actually get a ban list. We haven't had a ban list during national seasons before, as far as I'm aware. And the kind of census coming from Konami is that they don't expect to drop a ban list unless they absolutely have to, because there's so many sets coming out in between, and all those sets are meta relevant. The meta might sort itself out. So if you look at obviously the one we've just had, we've got the new Hand Trap, we've got the new Ghost Girl, and we've got Altergeist that are going to be competing. And then when we hit national season or Euro season, we've got Brandish, which everyone is hunting for, because that is a really, really big meta contender right now. You'll then have Draco still. You'll also have Pendulum Magicians that have been untouched. Spirals with the Nightmares are coming back into it. Believe it or not, I think over this past weekend there was a Spiral that got a top in Spain. We got Element Sabers that got a top in a 300 plus regional, and then we got a Gokis that finished first or topped in YCS Vegas, I believe it was. So I might have got the locations mixed up, but having those 3 decks around is still incredibly powerful. Anyway, make the second. Activate Terraforming, search on my second diagram. I've activated the Heritage. I don't think I've taken the draw off the Heritage yet. Just seeing what I can get. I think I searched out the Disciples for more draw. I can't remember exactly. Using the heritage for the... Oh no, activating the second diagram, popping the heritage to get rid of the monster reborn. Searching out the Disciples. Disciples using the effect to spin back. Oh, that was it. Sorry, I couldn't pop with the second heritage because you can only use each effect once per turn. So I went for the Disciples so that if I get rid of the Disciples, I can get rid of Monster Reborn, which then takes another monster away. And then if I go and play this right, I can actually OTK, or not OTK, but finish off my opponent because he's only on 51. So I draw off of that. I've still got 2 sets. I've already used the... I haven't used the additional normal of the heritage. I've got 2 Masterpiece in hand and another heritage, I believe. So that's enough for game. I've just got to have enough materials on board to finish it off. I think one of my other face down is Monarch's Erupt as well. So obviously what I don't want to be doing is doing this stuff if he's still got hand traps in board. I need to make sure that my hand trap stays on the board. Or my Amanawato stays on the board until I've got everything done. Otherwise it could cost me greatly. It was a very tense game. I think both of us were playing for the top kind of... If we won this one, I think either the winner went 3-0, or would have taken them quite high up the rankings. So activating Disciples for the additional normal. True off Disciples and Amnawato. Disciples obviously pops the back row. My Masterpiece is immune to spell and monster effects, so I'm not worried about his monsters. They can't touch me right now. If I get rid of the Soliloquist before anything else happens, his monsters can't do anything. He can have the searches all day long because I'm going for game this turn. Obviously, if you wanted to, his Soliloquist could bounce any of my cards, but it's not going to do anything because that's just going to come back to my hand. I'm then just going to be able to set it or play it. But he bounced my Solemn Warning, which, you know, isn't the end of the world because I'm not going to use it this turn anyway. So I've got my Monarch's Erupt face down. I just need one more card, and I've got the Heritage in hand, and that one more card would do me just fine. I'm just trying to do the maths in my head of, you know, if I get both Masterpiece on board, I've got 2 Masterpiece effects. Obviously, the biggest gamble you play on that is if he's got a Ghost Ogre. If you don't make the other Masterpiece immune by monster effects, he could get Ghost Ogred. So there's the Heritage. Effect for the additional normal. And I'm getting rid of the Monarch's Erupt and the Heritage for the second Masterpiece, making him immune to spells and traps. So I'm going to use the first Masterpiece. He's already used the Soliloquist, so I haven't got to worry too much about that. He did that to protect his trap. Or monster, I believe. And then I'm just trying to figure out the maths in my head. In a second, I'll pick up my phone. There we go. And actually do the maths, because I have to think this one through. If I clear both the defensive position monsters off with Masterpiece effect, and then attack one Masterpiece, because both of them aren't affected by the field spell, so they don't gain that 300 attack. And I think I do it by just like 150 life points or something. So activate the second Masterpiece, pop both his monsters, attack with my first Masterpiece into the Maleseeks. He gets the search off the Maleseek, and he goes down to 2650, and then obviously my Masterpiece is 2950, and I think he's not aware of what life points he's on at this moment in time. I don't know, he thinks it's exact. So I just attack for game, and he's like, oh, okay, cool, game. So that was it for game 1. And then game 2, again, gets very, very interesting. Tom obviously gets to go first. Opens up quite nicely, gets the Marionetta that he needs. Marionetta then obviously sets him a trap ready for dead. And he sets the protocol. Now, I'm worried about the protocol early game because it can negate my diagrams, my terraformings, anything like that. So during the standby phase, I ask if he's got anything, and unfortunately he does. He flips the anti-spell on me. My whole hand, apart from an Amanawato, is bloody spells, and he plays the protocol as well that's going to negate any monster effects. So I normal summon the Amanawato just to shut down any of his monster effects, searching or anything like that. Not that Meeseeks does, Marionetta does that. Attack him for the little poke of 300. And then I have to set all 5 back row. There was 2 terraformings amongst that, 1 disciples, and I believe 1 apocalypse of the true Dracos. So as you can tell, my back row is very, very painful. He activates the Monster Reborn, brings back the Marionetta, then activates Spoofing to swap round. He has opened the absolute tits. And I believe the face down is a Cosmic Cyclone as well. So he searches out the Multifaker special summons itself. He gets a Siliquist to board as well. So we can start bouncing my back row if at any point he feels threatened. I've never... Well, I'll take that back. I was going to say, I've never felt so much pain having an anti-spell flipped on me. But even against I don't think it's been that bad if I had that flipped on me against Magicians, because you just go Black Fang and try and out it that way. Anyway, Tom now has free reign to build up his board. I didn't get any of the traps I needed. Obviously, the Apocalypse really only works if I have the spell in play. I sided in... I believe I sided in Red Reboot, Cosmic Cyclones to kind of deal with the back row. Not that that's ideal, because the back row can still cause issues, but I believe he mains Anti-Spell as well, so Anti-Spell shuts down Dracos in the Altergeist matchup, because they just can't, you know, there's no way for them to recoup. If they open up a full hand, like if they open up the way I did with no monsters, if I opened up with a monster, then I would have been able to deal with the anti-spell early on and then just push through. But it has caused a lot of issues. Anyway, so Tom continues making his plays. He's got Spoofing active. He's also got Protocol active. He uses Marionette's effect to get rid of Protocol. Brings back Meeseeks, sorry. He's got Hextia on board, which negates the spell of Trap. And then he's got the Cosmic Cyclone face down. Should any danger pop up, he just gets rid of it. So yeah, I've got to take the Meeseeks to face at 500. Meeseeks then sends one, and it sends a Terraforming. I had 2 Terraformings in hand. Usually that's good, but not too bad. I then have to take a 16 to the face, and then a 31 to the face from Hextia. Taking me straight down to that lonely 2,900 life points. And then he's got more sets to go. He's got everything on lock. Activates the Protocol during the standby phase, so he's got the ability to negate any monster effects I want. I've still got the Amanawato, so that stops my spells and traps being negated by Hextia. And it stops him getting any searches or multi-faking, anything like that. Other than that, I haven't got a lot more I can do, so I activate my pot duality, and this again is a heartbreaking duality. So I get a Cosmic Cyclone that I can't use, a Diagram I can't use, and a Disciples of the True Dracos that I can't use, because all of them would have to be set. I could take the Cosmic Cyclone. I choose to take the Diagram because at this moment in time, I've actually gotten out to the anti-spell. So because I've got a Disciple set from last turn, I can activate that. And then I've got a trap card of Apocalypse set from last turn. So I can activate Apocalypse, pop the Disciples, pop the anti-spell, and then I can go Diagram and start going off. But there's always a but. Oh dear, oh dear. So then I activate the Apocalypse, activating the effect at the same time. Now, unfortunately, the Apocalypse isn't a tribute for cost. You target the Draco you're going to get rid of. So he chains Cosmic Cyclone. And the Cosmic Cyclone hits my Disciples. That gets banished. He takes the K, not that he really cares. And that stops me having an out to the anti-spell. I've now got a Terraforming set that's all it's going to do is search me out a Diagram. And I believe I've got 2 Diagrams in hand. I've got no outs to anti-spell whatsoever. So the little jump there was because I was stopping and I was thinking about it. I thought about it for a good couple of minutes. And I was like, yeah, there's no out to that. I've got no out to the anti-spell right now. You're just going to kill me next turn anyway. Anyway, on this one, going on to game number 3, I get to go first, and I don't open up the best. I didn't open up bad, and I kind of took a couple of gambles with the plays that I made. I had a masterpiece, but I had no traps whatsoever. So I can't really make my masterpiece useful against Tom's Altergeist without having a trap on board. So I activate Heritage, use that as an additional tribute to pop 2 spells, and that gets me my masterpiece down that's immune by spells. I think I opened up all 3 Heritage as well. So I activate the Heritage to get 1 draw, and I'm like, this 1 draw could help me. The 1 draw, believe it or not, was another bloody masterpiece. So I kind of thought, I was like, it's better me having a masterpiece on board immune by monsters and spells than it is by having one immune by double spell. So I kind of let that go, passed that over, and I don't even think my last set card was much use to me either. So it was 2 Heritage and a Disciples, and then the Cosmic Cyclone is my Cosmic Cyclone, taking the K. Not that that bloody matters to him either. But, you know, he's cleared my board presence. The only hope that I've got is that he plays... he searches out Protocol, which is fine, because that can negate and destroy my masterpiece. So I have to get rid of that Protocol. That's my biggest worry, because it only takes another face-up Altergeist. Even if he has another trap, I'll be in trouble. So in the end phase, I'm like, right, take out that Protocol. Can't have that. You know, I can't let you do that to me. I draw for turn. Standby phase. Main phase. What's he got? He's only gone and got, when he wants to flip it, a second bloody Protocol. So I can't activate Masterpiece effect. It really hurt. Like, I didn't draw into a Cyclone. I didn't draw into anything useful. I just didn't have an out to it. So I attack, clear off his Marionetta. Oh, sorry. He changed the multi-faker in hand, so now he's got more materials on board. So I now, honestly, even if I attacked and killed off his Marionetta, because he activated the Protocol, he would still have the ability to negate and destroy my masterpiece, which is the biggest weakness. When you can't make your masterpiece immune to traps, you're in big trouble against Altergeist. Really big trouble. I think one of my other biggest mistakes is I took out some of my continuous traps, because like Imperial Order was no use against, you know, obviously now looking back at it, when he has Cosmic Cyclone and stuff like that, it is of slight use. And I believe the card I actually drew was Apocalypse, which would have been helpful going turn 1, or if I held on a Masterpiece, I might have had it. Might don't want to make it. Anyway, so he links up and goes into Hextia. Now, this is my moment to kind of interrupt, because the way I saw it at this moment in time is the second he normal summons a monster, if I activate Apocalypse, my Apocalypse isn't going to do anything for me. If I activate Apocalypse when he's got a monster, he could negate it, but he's not going to. So I had to sacrifice my Masterpiece to get the most out of all of this, and then it didn't really work for me. I think it kind of backfired massively, because he hasn't used his normal summon yet. He's got the Hextia. I just had to check whether the Hextia was send a card it points to, or obviously it has to be an Altergeist monster that it points to. I mean, if it just said an Altergeist card it pointed to, imagine that being in a main monster zone pointing to a spell or trap. I know that's not a mechanic that's been introduced yet, but if it just said an Altergeist card it was pointing to, it would be crazy good. So it's at this part that I'm starting to think, you know, what do I want to happen? Like, where do I want this to go? Obviously, all I can think about is if I get rid of Hextia, my trap's going to be safe. He's going to get rid of my Masterpiece if I activate the effect at all. So at what stage is it beneficial for me to involve? So I just say that, yeah, the summon's fine. Search out your I think his multi-faker or something like that he searched out. Now I can't let him normal summon. The second he normal summons to the zone of Altergeist, of the Hextia, he can negate my Apocalypse, and that can then cause me even more issues. Yes, the Apocalypse would pop a card, but I kind of need the Apocalypse effect to go off. So, you know, the idea was that he's gonna get rid of my Masterpiece anyway. He's probably gonna get rid of my Trap as well. So I need to get rid of his cards first before any of that happens. There's a lot of thinking in this game. This might have been the moment that I misplayed and messed up massively. I mean, looking back at it now and watching it now, yeah, so I activate Masterpiece's effect. It tributes for cost, so he tributes his Hextia. I then chain Apocalypse, and Apocalypse pops Masterpiece. Unfortunately, the Altergeist just says negate the effect. If it was negate the effect on field, then Masterpiece would have gone through because it would no longer be on field to be negated. But it negates the Masterpiece effect. I got rid of the Hextia. I was losing my Masterpiece anyway. But yeah, there was probably I probably overthought this one here. If Hextia, even if he had normal summon to Hextia, and I flipped the trap, and then he chose to negate the trap, I could then pop Hextia. But regardless, it probably wasn't the best of moves on my part. I think that's kind of one thing that I acknowledge that didn't go too well. But I also wanted to kind of maintain and keep my trap, because if I top decked a monster or a diagram, I had the ability to kind of play out a little bit more, get a monster on board, pop a monster he's got, and move a little bit further forward. Anyway, normal summons his Marionette. Marionette sets a card. He activates Marionette's effect, getting rid of it, bringing out Hextia. Swings at me for 15. And then it's at this point that I've kind of realised there's no coming back from this. He sets another card. He needs one card. If I need one card, and I kind of get it, I get my diagram. I'm like, oh, I could kind of do something here. Like, my only play here was activate diagram, pop Apocalypse, pop his monster, search out Heritage and get the draw. And he had Twin Twister, so he activates Twin Twister, gets rid of my diagram. I've got nothing more. There's nothing more I can do. He swings at me next turn with 15. Not to mention he's already got the Monster Reborn trap, so he can bring a monster back. He can then got Multi-Faker in hand that he can special summon another monster off of. And he can just go ham next turn, and he just walks me through what he can do. He just says, you know, like, you just go next turn and go in. So that is game. We shaken, and he's kind of gained me. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope this kind of helps. It's just I've kind of done commentary on this because we had an alarm going off in the background, so the sound was very, very bad on the recording. But I hope this helps. I hope this has given you a couple of ideas, and I hope you showed you how to beat Dracos, even though I probably didn't play it as best as I probably could have done. But it also shows you what both decks can do against each other in the upcoming meta. But for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and as always, guys, happy dueling.